guys, this is Mrs. Venti. Welcome back. This is a grade 9 video in which we are exploring how to multiply binomials. We are using the Mind Action Series textbook. We are doing exercise 3 on page 99. In today's video, we are going to look at questions 1 up until 13. Let's get started. Now, the first thing we notice is our sum reads 2, open bracket, x plus 1, second bracket, x minus 1. Because I have a plus and a minus, and I have the exact same thing in both brackets, x and x, 1 and 1, I know that I have a difference of squares. So I'm going to bring that 2 down. I'm not going to touch it. And I'm going to put my answer in brackets. And I'm going to say term 1, which is x squared, minus, because I have a difference of squares, term 2 squared, which is 1. 1 times 1 is 1. So I have 2, open bracket, x squared minus 1, close bracket. Now I am going to deal with this 2 that I have over here. So what I'm going to do, because I'm doing the distributive property, I am going to multiply or distribute the 2 to everyone in the bracket. So first I'm going to say 2 times x squared. That gives me 2x squared. I bring down this minus and I say 2 times 1 gives me 2. And that is my final answer for this question. Question 2, 3 times 2x minus 3 times x plus 2. Now my brackets are not identical, so I'm not having a perfect square, I'm not having a difference of squares, which means I'm going to use FOIL. So when I use FOIL, I start with f times f, which is first. So I have 2x multiplied by x, which gives me 2x squared. So I can write that here. This 3, I'm going to bring down and I'm going to keep my brackets. So in my brackets, I have 2x squared. Then I have O. O stands for outer. I have 2x multiplied by 2, which gives me 4x. And then I have I, which stands for inner. So I have minus 3 on the first bracket multiplied by x on the second bracket, minus 3x. And then I have L, which stands for last. So I have minus 3 over here multiplied by positive 2 over there, gives me negative 6. Now I can add these two up because they are like terms. 4x minus 3x gives me 1x. So I'm going to write plus x in the middle. And lastly, I write minus 6. So my next step is the distributive property. I have done FOIL. Now I'm going to multiply this 3 in. So 3 times 2x squared gives me 6x squared. 3 times x gives me 3x. 3 times minus 6 gives me minus 18. And that is my final answer. In our next question, we have 2 bracket y plus 3 bracket squared. So this is what we call squaring the bracket, or a perfect square. The bracket is known as a perfect square. So what we're going to do here is we're going to bring that 2 down and we're going to keep our brackets. Now we're first going to deal with the perfect square, and we know that our formula will be term 1 squared. And then we're going to keep this sign, which is plus. Then we're going to say 2 times term 1 times term 2, which is that one. And term 1 is that one. And then we're going to say plus term 2 squared. Okay, so let's do that. Term 1 is y. If we square y, we have y squared. Then we keep this plus. Then we say 2 times y is 2y times 3 is 6y. So in the middle we have 6y. And on the end, we have plus 9. Let's go over that again. So it's y squared plus 2 times y times 3 plus 3 squared. Oops. Squared. So now that I have that, I'm going to do the distributive property. So 2 goes in there. I've got 2y squared. 2 times 6y gives me plus 12y. 2 times 9 gives me plus 18. Question 4, we've got 3 times a bracket squared or a perfect square. So we are going to keep the 3 and our bracket. Let's do our inside. I'm going to start with term 1 squared. Term 1 is 2x, and I'm going to square it, which gives me 4x squared. Then I keep this sign, so that's minus, and I keep it all the way down. And then I'm going to have 2 times term 1, which is 2x, times term 2, which is 1. And that, it gives me 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 1 is 4x. And then lastly, I am going to have plus 1 squared, term 1 squared, which is plus 1 to the power of 2, which is 1. So now that I have that, I put it in brackets. Close my brackets. 3 times all of those. And I do my distributive property. 3 times that gives me, 3 times 4 is 12x squared. Plus times minus is minus. So 3 times 4 is 12x. Plus times plus is plus. 3 times 1 is 3. That is your final answer. The square visible. Question 5. 5 times a perfect square. So I'm keeping my 5 over there, and I open my bracket. Term 1 squared. So let's write the formula. Term 1 squared. And we keep this sign plus 2 times term 1 times term 2 plus term 2 squared. That's term 2. And we close the bracket there. So that means I have 5 times term 1 is a, and we're going to square it, which gives me a squared. Then we have plus 2 times a times 2b plus 2b squared. And we close the gray brackets. So what do we have? 2 times 1 is 2 times 2 is 4ab. So that's plus 4ab. And my last one is going to be 2 squared is 4, b squared is b squared. So that's in my gray brackets. And then I have the 5 that I need to distribute in. So I'm going to say 5a squared plus 20ab 20ab plus 5 times 4b squared is 20b squared. And that's my final answer. Question 6, we have 7, 3x minus 1, 3x plus 1. So we have a difference of squares. This becomes equal to 7, stays on the outside. And our difference of squares says term 1 squared, always minus term 2 squared. That's term 2. That's term 2, and that's term 1. That's our formula. So we are going to keep the 7, and we are going to write in our brackets Term 1 is 3x, so 3x, and we square it, minus 1 that we squared. So that is equal to, keep the 7, 3x, 3 times 3 is 9x squared, minus 1. Now we do the distributive property, and I say 7 times 9 is going to be 63. 63x squared minus, because plus times minus is minus, 1 times 7 is 7. And that is our final answer. 63x squared minus 7. Question 7, minus 2p minus 4p plus 4, that is difference of squares. So I'm going to say minus 2 in my bracket. Term 1 squared is p squared. Always minus in a difference of squares. Term 2 squared is 4 squared. That's 16. Now I'm going to do the distributive property. So minus 2 times p squared gives me minus 2p squared. Next up I say minus 2 times minus 16. Minus and minus is plus. 2 times 16 is 32. So plus 32. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is your final answer. Question 8 is minus 3, b minus 2, b minus 3. This is not difference of squares because minus 2 and minus 3 are not the same. So we are going to use our FOIL method. We are going to use the FOIL method. We start with f, which is first times first. That gives me b times b is b squared. Then we start outer. B times minus 3. B times minus 3 gives me minus 3b. Then I go inner, minus 2. Minus 2 times b. Minus 2 times b gives me minus 2b. And then I do last, which is going to be minus 2 times minus 3. That's that one. Minus and minus is plus. 2 times 3 is 6. I can add like terms. Those two add up. Minus 3b minus 2b gives me minus 5b. So now I go back to my question. I say this is equal to negative 3, open bracket, and I put my content in there. B squared minus 5b plus 6. Next step, I use distributive property. Don't forget this minus sign. So I multiply it in. Minus 3 times b squared gives me minus 3b squared. Multiply it in. Minus and minus is plus. 3 times 5 is 15b. Multiply it in. Minus and plus is minus. 3 times 6 is 18. That is your final answer. Question 9, 5, 2m minus 1 in brackets squared. This is a perfect square. So we are going to use term 1 squared minus, or we're going to use minus because there's a minus in the bracket. 2 times term 1 times term 2 plus term 2 squared. So let's do that quickly. This is, I keep my 5 open bracket. Term 1 is 2m. Term 1 squared is going to be 4m squared. Then I keep this minus sign and I say 2 times term 1 times term 2. 2 times 2m times 1 is 2m. Times 2 is 4m. And then I say term 2 squared, so plus 1. And that is my first bracket. Now I do difference of squares, multiply, distributive property, multiply this in. 5 times 4 is 20m squared. This one, plus times minus is minus. 5 times 4 is 20m. And this one, plus times plus is plus. 5 times 1 is 5. That is your final answer. Question 10, minus 4 times 2w plus 3 squared. So again, this is going to be our perfect square. We start with term 1 squared. 2w squared gives me 4w squared. Then the sign that I keep is the one in the middle, plus, and then I say, okay, 2w times 3 gives me 6w, times 2 gives me 12w. And then last squared is going to be plus 9. Close the bracket on that one. And then I am going to multiply in this negative 4. So I say minus 4 times plus 4w gives me minus 16w squared. Minus times plus is minus. 4 times 12 is going to be 48w. And then minus times plus is minus. 4 times 9 is 36. That is your final answer. Question 11 looks different. Notice that I have 4 times p plus p. Notice that I have 4 times 2p minus q in brackets, and all of it is in brackets squared. So 2p minus q is not squared by itself. So in this instance, we work inside the bracket first. And the first thing we're going to do inside the bracket is the distributive property. I'm going to multiply that, and I'm going to multiply that, which means I'm keeping my square brackets. That squared is staying. So let's say 4 times 2p gives me 8p. Plus times minus is minus. 4 times q gives me 4q. Now that I have that, I have a perfect square. So now I can multiply it out, and I am going to have term 1 squared. 8 squared is 64. P squared is p squared. I keep this sign, so that is minus. 8 times 4 is 32, and then 32 times 2 is going to be 64. Then I keep the letters P and Q. And then lastly, is always positive. 4 squared is 16q squared. That is our answer to question 11, which is different to all the others. Now question 12 is the same terms, but now it's the normal way that we know it. So we know it's 4 multiplied by the perfect square. So I'm keeping my 4 on the outside before I distribute, and I'm going to do a perfect square inside, and inside I have 2p squared is 4p squared minus, it's this minus over there, 2p times q is 2pq times 2 is 4pq plus q squared. And then I close my bracket. Now that I have that, I can do the distributive property. So 4 times 4 is 16p squared. Plus times minus is minus. 4 times 4 is 16pq. Plus times plus is plus. 4q squared. And that's your final answer. I am going to stop at question 12. I would like to thank you for watching. I would like to ask you to like and subscribe. I hope that this helped you. Any questions, please ask me in class, and all the best for your test. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.